Hello, everybody. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, this looks good. Let's just put this like this. Chat room. And here we are. How's everybody? Everybody had a great week. Hopefully. So this is good. And this looks okay. Let me just make sure I get my phone close by to check out. According to my email, there's a live show on the channel. Works great. Hey everybody, welcome aboard. And this is the Shortwave Radio live show. We are Friday. So for a lot of you, thank God it's Friday. And for me, it's, live shows and YouTube stuff. And it's Friday. But it's fun to be here, as usual. Nice to see everybody on board. And what the hell is that? I'm getting Harry Potter stuff on my phone. Okay. So, hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave Radio live show. We are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, because it does say we're on the air. And we, of course, talk about radio, everything about radio, everything that has to do with radio in general. And, of course, we try to, kind of be below 30 megahertz, but, we digress and talk about everything radio, so it's kind of cool to have this live show and be here. Hope that you enjoy today's show. There's a so my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That's the northeast part of North America. We are here every Friday at 20 UTC, and starting next week, we are here every Wednesdays 8 p.m. Eastern. That's UT Thursday 0 UTC. So 2 shows a week starting next week. So you guys are going to have a 2-for-1 every week. I don't know how long we're going to do that. We're going to check out. And we're going to see what the audience we have and how it goes. And we'll check that out, and see if it's worth it. And as a couple of you have been sending me emails saying, don't do too much. We'd rather have 1 live show than 2 live shows, and then you're a burnout and you don't do shows anymore. So no, of course I will go as we can, and hopefully it's gonna be cool. So starting next week, and we'll talk a little more about that. There's a beautiful chat room if you want to talk with other people, chat around with other people, and ask questions, say hi. Well, yeah, there's a chat room with amazing people. It's I think it's one of the best chat rooms you can actually have. Great people that just enjoy the hobby, that just want to be here and help out and have fun. We're in a, most of us are in our man cave, and basically, there's like, a solitary thing. Now it's like, we're a big gang of people that want to have fun with radio. And this, I think, is the cool part of it. So, I will say hi to Mark Cope from Dallas, Texas, Terry Cook in Western Montana, KF7BQ. Matt, nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado, W0NDK. Bobby Burgess in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA, WA50107 SWL. Maglone, nice to have you here. William Conlon, nice to have you here. WOHB1390, nice to have you on board from Western Ohio. Nice to have you on board, Rick. W8PRR. Sheldon Harvey, bonjour, hi, hola, ni hao. Nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. I was going through the messenger, the Canadian International DX Club bulletin, which is a great bulletin, and very interesting every month. And of course, you can ask for a sample copy of this bulletin. It's an electronic publication. It comes through your email. I have a column in that bulletin called the World of Utilities, and there's a lot of other stuff in there. So you can ask your sample copy for free. Sheldon will be happy to send you one if you've never asked for one before. And that's cidxclub@yahoo.com. cidxclub@yahoo.com. And would you wish to become a member? Well, it's not expensive. $10 a year, $25 for 3 years. And it's more than just a bulletin that has tons of information. And don't be fooled with the Canadian International DX Club, by the way. It's really international. The publication is as information of things all around the world. This month I talk about the different time stations in different countries around the world that are in operation. So, you know, wherever you are, there's stuff to listen to. And the bulletin is not just that. And it's more than a bulletin, like I was saying. You're part of a club. You're part of a gang of radio enthusiasts. And of course, you can participate in the different columns. If you have information to submit to the different editors, it's a lot of fun, and I'm very happy to be part of that operations. So if you never asked, don't hesitate to ask Sheldon for a sample copy of the Messenger. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley in Ontario. The Rock AD, nice to have you here. Calvin, nice to have you on board, my friend. Joe Rutman, nice to have you here from Chicago area. Redelva 65, nice to have you here from New York City, I believe. Pretty cool. John Pickney, nice to have you here. Bonjour et bienvenue, PLF Radio. Toujours un plaisir de vous avoir de la France. Nice to have you here, PLF Radio. Matambali, nice to have you on board from Colorado. Dante Fazio, hey, nice to have you here, Dante. Pretty cool. Keegan, nice to have you here, X80Xer. Keegan in Northwest Arkansas. Indy RC, nice to have you here. David Arden, nice to have you on board. The International Shortwave Fan Club is now in session. Yeah. Did I find any number station on each other? There are tons of them, Dante. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. There's tons of them, for sure. I hear some of them all the time, I can tell you. And really nice. Jay Jolie, nice to have you here, my friend. Merci beaucoup, meow, Paul. And you want some of that tonkinoise soup that I'm going to do. By the way, cheers everybody. And no, this is not a beer. It's not a pink beer. This is 1.5 ounces of vodka with soda water, a little bit of 7-Up, and some cranberry juice. That's my drink today because I didn't feel like drinking beer. I had beer last night. Went out with some friends, and today was like, I don't feel like drinking beer today. So a little drink that will be different, and less calories also for the belly. And for those that wonder, well, he's not in the perfect position for that, but I will show you guys. Don't look at the mess that Mr. Paul the cat is right here. Look at that, cleaning himself. So this is Mr. Paul the cat cleaning himself. Hey, Paul. Yeah, I know. So nice to have you here. Everybody's happy to see you, Paul. Meow, do something. Do a magic trick. No, it doesn't work. You're just like, what the hell you want? So anyways, don't look at the mess like I said. Sorry guys. Here we go. And we'll be back here. That is the mess that you don't see because I always position the camera to make sure everything looks beautiful. Fishkoff, nice to have you here, my friend. Any chance you could share any and all noise reduction gadgets for the urban settings? That's an interesting, you know what, I'm going to take notes in my phone for a couple of things here, because I think that could be interesting. I got some questions also. We're gonna go with a lot of questions today, because I got a lot of questions from people, and you know, I like to answer the questions here because obviously all of you guys are watching, so it's like, you know, everybody learns at the same time when there's stuff. So notes. I'm gonna keep notes here. Let's take a note. So, take a note. We're going to talk about noise reduction. We're going to talk about numbers station. We're going to talk about a very intriguing frequency for a lot of people. And we'll be looking at all of that at the same time. Through email, by the way, I want to say hello to John Fisher. And he's having a coffee mug, enjoying the show. Nice to have you on board, John, from North Chelmsford, Massachusetts. And it's nice to have you here, my friend. And thanks for the nice comment on the great column this month. So pretty cool. Thanks, John, and it's nice to have you here. I know you're watching, and always cool to have everybody on board. What else do we have? Matam Valley. When was the first official SWL show, by the way? Somewhere in 2013, I believe. 2012, 2013. Some of you remember it because you guys remember that I was sitting next to my washing machine in the kitchen, because that was the only place I could have low noise on the radio. So times have changed, but it's somewhere in 2012, 2013, the first live show. And time really flies. It's a big 6 years, at least 6 years now. You know, I just can't believe I was looking at YouTube statistics today, because, you know, I'm in the big changes of all sorts of things that I'm doing on YouTube, and you know, I look at the different statistics on my channel, and I could go back to 2011, which was the first time that I officially had really started to, you know, build channels. So it's like you look at that and you're like, wow, that's 8 years ago. 8 years ago. I remember all hyped up I was of doing YouTube stuff. It was like, wow, this is cool. I'm going to do something with that. And of course, you know, you post YouTube videos at first, and I still remember like getting my first 5 views. And then monetization came along, and I remember the first time ever that, because for those that don't know, monetization on YouTube is paid through AdSense. And AdSense pays you around the 21st of every month, and that is something that they pay you when you actually reach at least $100. So as long as you're not at $100, you don't get anything. It continues to accumulate, but they only start sending money when you reach at least $100. And I remember the first time monetization started, and I what the hell is that outside? I remember first, you know, looking at my first stat of, wow, I made four pennies today. I made 4 cents. Woohoo! And then came the other barrier, which is my first $100, which took a long time. I think it took a year before I made the first $100, something like that. But you know, and then I made $100 2 months later, because you know when it starts, you kind of, especially if you work hard for it, it kind of goes faster, and then it was the $100 every month, and then 200 and 500 and 1,000, and like woohoo, you know. I'm just amazed that all the time that, you know, thinking that I was 41 years old, 42 years old when I started YouTube stuff. 50-year-old now, kind of crazy. Times have changed. So John Pickney, Mr. Paul, I guess answered the question. Iran61, nice to have you on board from Connecticut, USA. Nick Amendote from Romania, nice to have you here. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board. The generous donator of the official on the air sign. Thanks again, and it's nice to have it here. It's very beautiful. Jerry says we're neck and neck with Hurricane Dorian right now, only 8 hours away, too close. Yeah, and the east coast of Canada is going to be hit, and Nova Scotia is supposed to have maybe hit by Hurricane Dorian that will still be Hurricane Force 1. So crazy. Et bonjour Jean-François Trudel de Saint-Hubert. Nice to have you here, my friend. VE2WMG. St. Hubert is like South Shore, southeast of Montreal. It's not very far from Sheldon's Greenfield Park. Keegan says we'll be able to report nighttime conditions here on Wednesday show. Cool. Yeah, I know for you guys in Europe it's late, 0 UT, but it's I'm aiming North America, South America a lot in that time slot. We'll see. Mike, nice to have you here from New York City. What's a good shortwave vertical, since I really do not have room for a wire? Honestly, if you have no room for a wire, you should get yourself a loop, which will give you pretty amazing reception in a very small space. Honestly, here, if I didn't have the backyard with my 80 feet of slow per wire going through the backyard, I would have my W6 LVP loop, which works great, and that will be much better than a vertical. The problem with a vertical antenna is that because it's vertical, it's rather short, and the wavelengths of shortwave signals are pretty long. So if you have a short antenna, you'll miss out on some signals. You know, I've tried with a CB antenna, a 102-inch CB antenna. Works okay. Honestly, isn't the best. And you'll have the added bonus that a magnetic loop might actually also help you reduce the interference, Mike. And it doesn't take a lot of space. Michael, nice to have you on board from Warsaw, Poland. Brent, nice to have you here from Brockville, Ontario. Nice to have you on board. Everybody's doing well. TV Radio 1972, nice to have you here. Hey, Alan Wheely, nice to have you here. I'm always amazed at all the reception, Alan, that you have of all these medium wave, transatlantic, and all the medium wave stuff that you get. It's just amazing. Nice to have you here, Alan. DG Alvin, nice to have you here. Pick up his new CRT Micron 2 meter and 70 centimeter band. Nice radio for little money. Good week. Cool. Cool. We always like that. Radios that are not very expensive, but that do a great job. Thank you, PLF Radio, for the Google t-shirt. I like it. It's a nice t-shirt, actually. Mickey Delmage. Mickey Delmage. I like the French version that I put to your name. Delmage. Nice to have you here, Mickey Delmage, from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. Really cool to have you here, my friend. Let's quickly go down the list. Al Catalan, nice to have you on board. Yeah, it's like a let's do it again. Go on the moon. Recre, nice to have you here from Turkey. Brian Penny's having a great time getting to know his new XH Data D808. Very impressed by this radio. It is an amazing radio. I think that, you know, if you have one portable to buy with all the gizmos and all the you know, the things in there, it's in the sensitivity of it. It's an amazing radio. An amazing radio. XH Data D808 is, it's one of the best out there. And, you know, for the price paid, when you think about it, for the price paid, pretty amazing. TV radio 72, ham activity around 7250 kilohertz, lower sideband. Cool, Michael. Nice to have you on board from New Jersey. David Green, nice to have you on board from Iowa. Was wondering if your loop requires a tuner, and if so, is it on the loop itself or close to the radios? I want something I don't have to literally get up and tune. So no, it does not require a tuner. It's a wideband loop. And I believe the MLA 30 is a wideband loop. And the more I see videos and I see information on the MLA 30, the more I see that that thing performs quite well, apparently. So no, it's really a wideband antenna rated at something like 1 kilohertz all the way up to 30 megahertz. So no tuning. It's made for all the frequency ranges there. Dave Schwartz, nice to have you here. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Robert Split, nice to have you on board, and thank you for the nice comments. David Arden says there are so many number stations on the air we can hardly number them. Joseph Ivankovich, nice to have you here. W8JXQ. Pretty cool to have you on board listening through Bluetooth on the road. That's cool. In Michigan, nice to have you here. Keegan says sometime after 6 UT, one night last weekend, 7 UT this morning, heard WWV, WWVH in the background on 5000. Yeah, that's about the time, you know when I heard, last time I heard WWVH, which is the time station in Hawaii, underneath WWV, was very early in the morning here, like, I don't know, it was like 7 a.m. here, which turns out to be something like 11 UTC. And I could hear it really well. It was really good. John Pickney, has anyone tried using a cheap AM radio antenna tuner on a random wire antenna for shortwave listening to bring the antenna into something resembling resonance? I know a lot of people did and do use antenna tuners to some effect. Some actually like it. So, nice. Maritime Mobile Service Net, active on 14300. So, Wilbur Forcier, nice to have you here from Jersey. Nice to have you on board. And please, when you ask a question, guys, ask once. We see it. Some people will answer, and remember, I am always behind. For example, right now, I'm answering questions 14 minutes behind. I'm at 4:10 p.m. on the list. So, you know, take some time to go through, but we will answer the questions. Michael Satterfield, nice to have you on board, my friend. What else do we have? What else do we have? Okay, going down slowly, guys. John Pigney says, Andy, $100. How much revenue Canada take off the top, I'm thinking about IRS here. They have their fingers in everything. Yeah, especially since all of this is electronic transfers, so they see everything. So you know when it's typical here, the income tax in Canada is typically kind of a curve. You know, you got like something like 15-16% income tax plus. There's a lot of things we have to pay. There's a lot of things also that are extras and are just not just income tax here in Canada. We've got to pay for all the social services, of course, in our taxes and our different ways of things that we have to pay, like, you know, employment insurance and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I'd like to go to a Unemployment Canada Bureau and say, hey, I stopped doing YouTube stuff. Can I have some unemployment insurance? Not sure they're gonna say yes. And of course, it all, you know, it's like everywhere. It goes. You pay more income tax as you make more money, pretty much. Lee Burkett, nice to have you on board. Got my Radio Shack scanner back, and I have now bought a Burkett UBX scanner for the airband. Having fun out and about searching this. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I got 1,600 views on one video. How much money can I get for that video? It's very there. You can't. There's no answer to that, Jerry. And the reason why it is very, very different from account to account, from the number of viewers you've got, and from the type of video, which means what type of ads they can post to it. Typically, you can say that 1,000 views can be anywhere, depending on the content, anywhere from $2 to $15-20. It really depends on the content. It's very interesting because I have several channels, so I compare the channels, and they don't all pay the same amount of money for the same amount of views. Some pay less, some pay more. It really, you can't put a number, officially a number on it, honestly. And you do have privileges when you get more views on a channel. At some point, when you go to a certain level, there are ads that sometimes you won't have when you don't have a lot of views. So it depends. There's a lot of things. It's a very complex thing, the way that they monetize YouTube. And you cannot, you know, say, hey, I'm going to have 10,000 views a month, so I must be making this amount. No, you can't compare it like that. You'll have 10 different YouTube channels, 10 different content with 10,000 views, and they're all going to make a different amount of money. It's as simple as that. PLF Radio, yes, I did hear some Hurricane WatchNet this week a little bit. Absolutely. Absolutely. PA1WX, nice to have you on board from Netherlands. Trad Edwards, do you do ham radio? Not yet. Soon. Soon. What else do we have? Let's go down. Okay, sounded like a cat. Yeah, and it was actually people, like, a car passed by, and it was like, you know. Well, it's not a question of being lucky, Jerry. It's a question of working hard to get something working, you know, honestly. It's really a question of working hard. This is my main job, so I have all the time to just do this, you know, on my different channels. What else do we have? Let's go down. Try to... hey, 45 unit. Nice to have you here, my friend. What else do we have? Richard McLeod, nice to have you here. I still stick with the old vacuum tube radios, but they can surprise you sometimes with their reception. Some of them are really good, honestly. LN321 from Norway, nice to have you here. How hot is it in Montreal? It's barely 70 today. If I look at my thermometer, it's about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. We're in for a cool couple of weeks, and at night it's been chilly. We've been going down to like 8 or 9 Celsius, which is like in the 50s. It's, you know, we're starting to see that we're summer slowly creeping out of here. But usually September is still a pretty good month. Bagoon Shortwave DX radio channel. Before here in Sweden, welcome aboard, my friend from Sweden. I could get UVB 76 really easy at like 5 p.m. and it wasn't even dark, like April or May. Now I almost can't receive it when it's 10 p.m. Receiver Texan PL660. And I even have a better antenna than before. Yeah, you know, UVB 76 4625 kilohertz is or what's called a buzzer, and it depends on propagation, time of year. Remember that you know, we are in a different time. We're getting close to the equinox here. You know, listen in. You might see that, because through a course of a year, it'll change. Propagation changes. An example here, it's you know, the best time for that is pretty much now. You know, September, October, March, February, March are great times for you know, the buzzer. So it depends on that, and maybe you have more noise than you had before. You know, if you have a new antenna, maybe you haven't noticed, because when you put an antenna outside, or if you change the antenna, you might actually have more noise than you had before. So maybe that's something you should check out, how much noise you've got, because that can, of course, make the reception a little worse. Brent has got a MLA30 loop, and he's it's set up, and he's just starting to try it. So far, it seems good. I'm getting a lot of good news of MLA30, and it's very inexpensive compared to the W6LVP loop, but pretty crazy. Matt says conditions are generally poor due to solar minimum. That doesn't mean that there's nothing to hear, but things you might have copied easily 2 years ago. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of stuff that changes over time. So you know, one of the things that you got to understand also, you know, 4625 is a low frequency, so it's not as affected by low solar activity than you know, say listening to a signal on 20 megahertz. But it's, you know, things change, and it changes all the time. I've actually enjoyed some pretty amazing propagation in the past week or so. Lots of very nice signals. But things are changing. You know, I like the BBC on 7300 at night at 0 UT is something that you know, it's degrading. It's not as strong as it was. You can see that there's a change in the propagation as we're getting into you know, into the fall and eventually winter time. Tristan Pate, nice to have you here, my friend. Listening in on his phone. Cool. Eddie SX, nice to have you on board. Soon, my friend. Soon. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX from Yonkers, New York. Nice to have you here. Radio Romania turbo signal. So let's check it out here. 13650 Radio Romania. It's not very strong, eh? And they're not on 11850. I wonder if their transmitter might be down again. Pretty crazy. Usually I get it better on the sloper. So let's check it out here. Sloper. Yeah, it is definitely better on my sloper. Mood. So Radio Romania on my Yisu and a sloper in the backyard.
Finals of the European Table Tennis Championships in France. Hastings in the quarterfinals. On second Romania takes on Poland. In the quarterfinals. Canadian player will be facing Serena Williams in the women's final at the US Open. Hungary scored 4 years to go past the second round in the first set. Others they defeated Switzerland.
So it's Radio Romania 13650. What else do we have? Bobby, bring some of that cold here, please. We're okay at 70. I mean, that's perfect. For me, it's perfect, honestly. David Oren says, sounds like the expedition weather in Montreal. Yes, 36 Celsius in Atlanta. Whoa, that's too hot for me. Yes, absolutely. And I need to go to Perry Island, absolutely. Well, that's an idea, getting a DMR talk group set up. Yeah, cool, Eddie. Brent, would you recommend the XH Data D808 over the Texan PL660? Yes, totally. Totally. Get the XH Data. CHU on 14670, S3 out of S5, says Keegan. Cool. Sheldon Harvey says free sample copy of the September CIDX, 74 pages. So if you haven't asked for one, please do. It's a great place to be. The CIDX Club Messenger Bulletin is a great little bulletin. 74 pages. Imagine all the hard-working editors in there. Hey? Yeah. NDRC, don't forget it's the RSGB and IARU Region 1 field day this weekend. Oh, really? Oh, that's going to be interesting to check out. Thanks for sharing that. Richard Berter, nice to have you here from Cincinnati, Ohio. PLF Radio says, I noticed even on the U20 SDR, there are a few signals on these international shortwave bands. 120, 90, 15, 13, 11 meters. I know about the shortwave propagation conditions. Have you heard signals on these bands? If I tune around daily, so 11 meters is unused for international broadcasting, but could have local stuff in different countries. I know that in parts of Europe, 11 meters is even used as kind of a local DRM band. And there's different things in there that could be listened. Now, when Sporadic E happens, I sometimes hear FM repeaters, actually like FM studio to link transmitters on the upper part of 25 megahertz, below, like around 26 megahertz. But I haven't heard that in quite a while now. 13, I haven't heard a peep of a station on 13 meters in a long time. For 17, I guess it's probably 17 that you're mentioning, or 15, because there's that 18 megahertz range that doesn't have a lot of stuff. Around 17 megahertz, I've heard some a few signals. There's a few signals there. It's not a very busy band with the low solar activity. 90, I hear stuff all the time because there's local stations here, and there's stations in the U.S. like WBCQ and WWCR that use 90 meters, and actually, if you go back about a month and a half, I actually had reception of Transworld Radio in Swaziland on 90 meters at 04 UT, I believe, somewhere around there, 04 or 430 UT. There are some signals in there, absolutely. As for 120 international broadcast stuff, I don't hear anything. But around that 2 megahertz range, I do have local stations like weather stations that are maritime weather stations around the maritime areas of Canada. There's a few things in there. I even hear, I think it's Gander Aeronautical, like on 2996 or something. So there are some stuff in there, but and you got to keep listening in, honestly. Stephen Wood, Radio Romania 13650, Solid S9 in Cape Cod. Nice to have you here, my friend. John Pickney, my PL 880 is getting one last chance. If a recharge doesn't make the PLL lock, it's going to the farm for target practice. Also going a 2007 Delco Mudmeister car radio and a 1990 bag phone. Get yourself an XH Data D808 to replace that PL880 and you'll be happy. Danny Medina says, yes, I have both the Texan PL660 and XH Data D808. XH Data wins hands down. And the XH Data has a longer ferrite for medium wave. So that also makes it a great radio for medium wave DXing, especially this winter. I'll have to brush up on my medium wave DXing. Alan Willie says Radio Romania 13650 strong signal. Brent says that the CIDX messenger bulletin was great again this month. So how about that? It's a great bulletin, guys. And what else do we have? Rufus Newt 13650, good here on Longwire. Cool. Now that we've passed the 100 live viewers mark, I will remind everybody that we are going to have 2 shows a week starting next week. So starting next week, we will be live at, of course, the regular Friday shows at 20 UT on the channel. But we will now add a, so if you live in North America, South America, it's Wednesday evening. It's 0 UT, or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is going to be a specific subject every week. And because we're starting new, the subject for next Wednesday show will simply be the basics of what the hell is shortwave radio. What are we talking about? What is this hobby? And what to expect in this hobby. And I will need you guys to actually be there to, because I'm going to ask one very simple question. And we're not going to answer that tonight, so don't do it tonight. If you're on next Wednesday's show, I will be asking a question. How did you start the hobby? What made you go on the hobby? And why are you continuing to be in the hobby also? Because, you know, hobbies are kind of, especially radio and pretty much every hobby. I mean, there's a learning curve for every hobby. Anything in life, we have a learning curve. Shortwave has a good one because there's a lot of little details and a lot of little things that, you know. But I think pretty much every hobby is as complex. You know, somebody was telling me one day, well, you know, I think shortwave radio listening or even amateur radio is more complex than other hobbies. And I would say it's not more complex. Its complexity is in a different place. I think every hobby, I mean, you know, stamp collecting is a very complex hobby if you start really looking at all the details of what is stamp collecting. You know, whatever hobby you have, every hobby is a very complex thing. if you decide to learn that hobby and be part of it, well, you gotta understand that you'll be, you'll be having a learning curve in there. But it's just different because amateur radio and shortwave radio is a technical hobby. It requires a little bit of technical know-how. And sometimes that's the thing about the hobby that's kind of probably scares away people. The fact that, yeah, okay, I thought I'd just buy a radio and that's it. Well, if you buy a radio and start listening in, cool. If you have a little technical know-how, if you can just, learn a little bit about electricity, electronics, radio waves, of course, it adds up and it's much more interesting if you do so. So, we're going to talk about that on Wednesday. We're going to go down to the basics of what shortwave is all about, why it exists, when did it start. We'll have great stories probably from you guys of, how I started. And by the way, if some of you have great stories that you want to make sure that are going to be read on Wednesday, and even if you do not, if you're not there, even if you're not in the show and you watch it later on, you can send those stories. Take the time to send the stories at officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. If you do, I'll read it on the air, and some of you, I'm sure, have a fantastic story about radio. One that I have about radio myself, a lot of people find it kind of really nice, and of course I'll probably talk about it again and go over that same story for the 1000th time, but we're going to be in the beginning of the hobby on Wednesday night. So Wednesday evenings in North America, put that in your calendar. Every Wednesday we are going to have a live show, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 UT. That means if you're in Europe and you can't sleep, it's Thursday in the middle of the night. So maybe if you have a sleepless night, you'll wake up and say, you know what, I can't sleep. Let's just look at Joe's live show from, at 4 a.m. or something. Once again, a lot of people, tell me, well, I won't be able to listen to that one. It's not cool, blah, blah, blah. That's the thing. I got an international audience. I can't please everybody all the time. So, of course, I'm trying that time slot because I'm trying to get a different audience. See if I can get people from, more people from North America, maybe. And, there's South America. And there's some regions around the world that time slot is actually better than 20 UTC to listen in. I got a few, I did get a few comments and emails from India, Pakistan, guys over there that's saying, you know what, it's early in the morning, but that 0 UT slot is actually interesting because I'll just have to wake up early and I'll be able to watch live, where, you might not be able, at 20 UT, it's like 3 a.m. over there, or 2 a.m. So it's like, middle of the night. You're not going to wake up in the middle of the night for that. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. So 2 shows starting next week. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And so, of course, it'll be the beginning of something new. Now, let's go down again. PLF Radio, what are big signals on the SDR? Radio Marti, actually. These 2 big signals here. So this is Radio Marti, 11860.
Grupo de Flagler corrió la voz a través del periódico, que comenzó sus publicaciones en 1896.
And 11930.
Ellos corrieron la voz en julio. Necesitamos incorporar Joseph A. McDonald, el abanderado de Flatbush, una bella persona. Joseph A. McDonald informó, vamos a convocar una reunión para incorporación.
So that's Radio Marti there. Then we have a Radio Havana Cuba on 11760. So this is typical Radio Havana Cuba. A carrier with no audio. They really have a lot of problems with their transmitters at Radio Havana Cuba. What's here? 11635. Oh, this is the Cuban number station. We were talking about number stations earlier. So you know what? Cuba. So we were talking earlier. Did you hear? Did you hear some? Some number stations. Well, 11635 right now. HM01. HM01. That means hybrid mode 1. And this is. Of course, the number station is for spies in the field. I don't know if they still use it. They seem to be on some kind of loop of the same thing all the time, but this is the Cuban number station. It's interesting how Radio Havana Cuba has no audio and bad audio on every frequency, but somehow the number station always has good audio. I guess they keep the good transmitter for the number station or something. So 11635 is Cuban numbers. There's Saudi Arabia, kind of weak. 11820. Not very strong. 11780 is Brazil. Radio Nacional Amazona 11780 from Brazil. Mark Cope says 13650, not making it into Dallas at all. Andy Coley, nice to have you here. Richard Berter says, got my first QSL in over 50 years from Voice of New Zealand. Radio New Zealand. Cool. That is fun. That's cool. Brad Minton, nice to have you here. Which Yaesu shortwave receiver do you have there? How do you find it? This is a transceiver, so it's an amateur radio transceiver. It's the Yaesu FD450, which was donated to me, by the way. And by Jack N9IIF that we see in the chat room from time to time. So this is a amateur radio transceiver, Yaesu FD450, and you could probably find it online, Brad. Matambali, oldest official shortwave video I could find was dated August 30th, 2012. Oldest show I could find dated March 30th, 2014. Test of the feature. So March 30th, 2014. So that's kind of interesting. 5 years and a half. So March 30th, 2014. I still remember how I was so stressed because I was telling myself, oh man, people are going to watch me now. I'm going to be live. I don't remember how many people we had at the peak of that show. Do you guys remember? I'm trying to remember because I was using Google Hangouts back then. And Google Hangouts was interesting, but didn't have a chat, which was a big problem. I like it here because there's a chat. I'm trying to remember if there was I think there was a count of a number of people. Yeah. Oh, I think on the Google Hangouts I could see the number of people watching, but I think you guys could not see it. I'm trying to remember. It's a long time. I kind of like the YouTube stuff a little better, even though it's not complete. But wow. Time flies. And August 30th, 2012. So August 30th means it was the anniversary of the official Shortwave channel. We just passed the official Shortwave channel August 30th, 2012 date. Actually, my oldest videos go back further in time. I believe my first Shortwave videos were like 2009, but I at that time I was using the same password on 3 different sites, and one site got hacked, and I got my YouTube channels were hacked. I never could kept them back anymore, and at some point I noticed they were deleted. Actually, I complained that they were hacked, so they got deleted, and so I started from scratch on August 30th, 2012. Wow, time flies. John Pickney's first QSL was 50 years ago, Radio RSA. Oh man, that is crazy. And Shortwave Radio Hangout number 2, April 12, 2014. Number 2 was 4 hours long. Man, 4 hours long. I remember getting a kick out of doing it. It was kind of fun. Radioactive, nice to have you here, my friend. Nice to have you here. Richard Berter, my first was 50 years ago. Ali Crafter S118. I have it and works a little. Man, pretty crazy. So Dante, you just heard one. 11635, number station. It's part of the numerous number stations. Punk Night. A DX conversation can be heard by multiple people? Yes, absolutely. That's Shortwave. What's so good about SDR, Dante? Well, first of all, the visual aspect is amazing. I don't know how many signals I would have missed if it wasn't for the visual of the spectrum that I have, so I can see the signals. So if a new signal, for example, pops up, I see it immediately visually, because the SDRs receive a wide range of frequencies in live. And you can go a lot. I can actually extend this one to 10 megahertz if I want, but you need a pretty good computer to have it working at full spectrum. And so that's one of them. There's a lot of another nice thing about the software-defined receivers is the amazing amount of controls you have over a signal. So that's also something that is kind of cool. But there's a downside. You need to use a computer, and it's not everybody that likes it. Some SDRs are more complicated to actually set up than others. That's why I like and kind of like to promote the SDR Play stuff, because with SDR Uno, it's install the software, plug in the radio, it just works, and that I think for a lot of people is important, because a lot of people that listen to the radio are not necessarily very good about it with the computer. PLF radio happens sometimes, a carrier, no audio. Joey D, nice to have you on board. Do you know of anyone having issues with global tuners? They won't let me register an account. You know what? I remember having issues with global tuners a few years back. I don't know. Have you tried some? I guess you tried different accounts, because usually it shouldn't be that problematic. Joey D says, been listening to both Hurricane Nets lately. Very good to be here. Cool. Keegan 11635 is S5 out of S5. Radioactive is also hearing the Cuban Lady 11635. Very cool. Shirty Pyro 90, nice to have you here. Mark Cope, what's the use signal and weird noise I always see on 13560? I don't know if it's local or not. And that's one of the questions that I've seen. Are you the one that, did you post on some groups about it, by the way? I think I saw that go on one of the groups. I'm going to punch in 13560 because I'll probably be hearing something here. 13560. So do I have anything? Yeah, there's something there. So for example, I got that. Now I'm tuning in sideband to have it working. So 13560 is dedicated to science and all sorts of measurement equipment. So it could be remote control equipment of all sorts of things, scientific instruments of all sorts. It could be radio controlled devices that are actually used. It is a known frequency for scientific and all sorts of little weird gizmos. So chances are 13560 is probably very local to you. Of course, with shortwave propagation, that means that there are some stuff that are probably, that could technically propagate. But most of what's, for example, here, what I hear is local. It's 24 hours on that frequency. There's something around me, something somewhere here that has that, you know, if I tune it here, also, just to check it out, 560. So you guys see the tones. There's even one that repeats every like 20 seconds or so. You'll hear a beep show up. But this is a reserved frequency for scientific purposes. So there's a lot of stuff in there that could be, most of it is probably local. So that tone, like once every 30 seconds or every, if we refer to it, I believe there is a page here, 13560 kilohertz. So, so in there's propagation beacons, RFID stuff, all sorts of weird signals that can pop up there, honestly. So a lot of people having, you know, sweep noise, beeps of all sorts, really a lot of stuff in here. And it is shared by scientific equipment and measuring devices. So a lot of that has to do with probably all of that science stuff being used there, honestly. Brent, how do I avoid RFI on your SDR and Sony monitor with all your radios and other devices on? So the number one, and we're going to talk about it a little bit because that's also something that was asked a little earlier about noise reduction. So it all has to do, a lot of it has to do with choosing the equipment. So of course, for example, if I would do a live show here, I will do a live show with the laptop that has the least amount of RFI, or radio frequency interference, that comes out of it. My Acer Nitro 5 that I just purchased is very quiet. I really like that. The power supply that comes with it, pretty beefy power supply, by the way, probably because it's a gaming laptop and it needs a lot of power, is very quiet. Not all computers are quiet, and I choose the equipment that I use when I do stuff. So I won't use a computer that's noisy when I'm listening to the radio. I'll keep it off. I'll even unplug the power supply. So there's a lot of stuff that I do like that is to manage noise, because you can't always do something about it, but you manage noise. That Sony monitor, actually this is a TV, and that Sony TV is very quiet. I do see when I shut it off that there's a few parts of the spectrum that might be a little bit, just a little bit noisier, but overall it's a very quiet TV. So when I can, I'll try to choose, but you can't always choose, you know. If you buy a TV, you can't go to the store and say, hey, can I listen to the noise of this TV with my shortwave radio? Not only will you look weird, but it's just not going to work, because in the store, noise is everywhere, and you won't even know if it's that TV or the other TV. So that's the first thing. Choosing which equipment. That was an interesting beep. There's an interesting beep here. Sounds like Sputnik. So that's the first part. Carefully choosing the equipment. There's a lighting system. I use LED bulbs here on all the lighting systems. That is also something that I will choose which bulbs I actually use in the office, around the house. I will not buy anything that has fluorescent lighting. I will not buy anything. If I buy a lamp, I will buy a good old lamp with, an on-off switch. Nothing more. With incandescent bulbs, or, of course, in my case here, some LED bulbs to lower the noise, because there's a lot of lighting systems actually create tons of noise. The other thing is to shield as much as you can the incoming signal. So what I do is I have coaxial cables that shield the office ear, the noise that's generated in my office here. So if I turn this on, so just listen to this and give you an idea. And there's an indication of signal here. So I'm going to put it on a frequency with nothing on it. Look at that. That's a, almost a 5 out of 5 noise. So you see that I'm surrounded by quite a lot of powerful noise sources. And even the on the air sign here probably generates some noise. And there's power supplies just below here, and I got tons of wall warts and power supplies below the desk. Not counting all the stuff on the other side. So shielded cables. My loop outside is brought in here with a shielded coax that will, of course, shield some of that noise away. It will prevent it from reaching the center connector, and so lower the noise, and try not to have the noise around me here get into the equipment. The power bars that I use are all rated with RFI filters on them. Now, I'll be very fair on that. I still purchase them with RFI filters built in. I've got multiple. I got 4 big power bars here. They are all RFI certified with filters. But honestly, when I plug a radio in and I plug a noisy device, I don't see a difference. I don't see that it shields anything. If I plug in on another wall and I plug in something on the wall that makes another plug that makes noise, I don't see much of an effect of these RFI filters. But I still use them because I think you need all the help that you can actually to have the lowest noise level. Then the last part is installing the antennas in a bright place, because that's probably, Shielded cables coming in is very important. So shielded coax, good quality coax too is good because they shield more. When you buy coaxial cables, you might notice that there's a percentage of shielding in the description. And the higher the percentage of shielding, the more shield it will have against the RFI around it. So a good quality coax is good. But I would say the second thing after that is, if you don't have control, because we don't have control of the noise around us really. There's not a lot we can do about it. Especially here, there are 6 other people here close to me. I ain't gonna go and knock on the door and say, oh, when you turn on your TV, I'm getting a lot of noise. Can you just not watch your TV tonight? This week, we had a power outage on Wednesday, which was planned. I had a call about a week before, and Hydro-Quebec, said, well, we're going to shut down the power, and finally they did it on Thursday because Wednesday was raining. And it was interesting because it affected this side of the street, and not that side on the front part here. And even though the noise level was a little lower, it was still very high. So it just tells me that the noise level here is, I got no control over it. It's from far away and from houses the other side of the street. So that's where placing your antennas in the greatest place possible is also a good thing. For example, my W6 LVP loop, for the purpose of having it handy and working well, I can't really put it very far from here. But I did try it in the back. I tried it in the front. I tried it at a few little places. And it's interesting because my front balcony seems to be the quietest place for my loop. So that's where, and that's why it's going to be there. So antenna placement is also very important, because you can sometimes position your antenna in such a spot that it's actually going to be quieter, and already you're eliminating some of the noise, honestly. But it's something. Pagemaster, nice to have you here from Moore, Oklahoma, KC5VOY, WA5136SWL. Nice to have you on board. Dante Fazio as the ICOM IC7700 ICOM HF transceiver. Cool. Danny Shortwave, the scanner radio here is a Radio Shack Realistic Pro 2006. The good old 2006 from Radio Shack. Livy Nathan, nice to have you on board. Bought a Kenwood R1000 on eBay. Nice, good old radio. Cool. Shalom. It's a great radio. Hope you're having fun. Mark Ledford, nice to have you here from Houston, Texas. Really nice to have you on board. Hey, Johnny DXer, nice to have you on board from Philadelphia. W3JMC. John Pickney, 11635. All numbers all the time. Yes. Oh, man. So let's go down here slowly, or actually as fast as we can. Fishkoff, any experience on AM/FM car radios with shortwave integrated? I've never seen one personally. PLF Radio says, I remember I was using the shortwave listening post IRC chat at some point, absolutely. Howard Leon, nice to have you on board from North Dakota. Cosmic Lettuce, nice to have you on board from southeastern Arizona. Oh, really? The Moonlander failed? Oh. That's sad. We're expecting to have some... it's difficult. That's where you see it's so difficult. It's so difficult to land something on another world. Punk Night, what SDR I'm using? I'm using the SDR Play RSP1A receiver. And the software here is the is SDR Uno. And it's running in Windows 10 Pro right now. John Pickney says, regarding the Yaesu FRG7, there was a Sears branded version they sold for a while. Yeah, I remember there was a Sears branded version of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey guys, we got a little friend here that's decided to say hi. Let's put this down a little bit. Mr. Paul. Hey, how are you, Mr. Paul? Look at our friends there. He's like doing, what the hell are you doing? Stop squeezing me. So, yeah. I remember they had a Sears branded. You are totally right on that. Oh man, that was something. It's just incredible. You know, there were a lot of receivers back then that were branded by big manufacturers like Sears, and you know, even Radio Shack had its own names on quite a lot of radios and devices that were made by other companies. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. Let's just put this a little back up like this, so you guys can still see Paul, but see a little more of me. So yeah, that's true. That's totally true. What else do we have? Ray Lyle, nice to have you here. Laying here listening, recovering from my heart procedure. Well, I hope you are feeling better. And it's a great time to tune your ICOM 8600. Take it easy and watch the show. Nante Fazio, 2.5 megahertz still in use. Yes, WWV and WWVH both use 2.5 megahertz. Absolutely. Usually comes in here in the winter time. Jerry DX, did Hart do any tests this week? Maybe with the hurricane? Nope, no Hart tests from my knowledge. I follow Chris Fallon and here in all the things that are happening. Dave Tot, nice to have you here. 13560 is dead. Cool. Pretty crazy. Dante Fazio, Angel, I watched that video. I liked about 3 megahertz and airplane beacons for traffic. Cool. Mark Ledford, can I install shortwave radio in my car? Yeah. The only thing on cars, and especially today with all the electronics in the cars, it's not always quiet. It's not always quiet. Take care, TV Radio 1972. Oh man, John Pickney. I would have, if I had a Radio Shack sign, I would actually pick it up and put it somewhere here. Reminds us of good old days. Mark Elford, nice to have you on board. Sitting here in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. I had to go look at the time in Montreal. Your clock timepiece messed up my timing. Because it's in UTC time. We are actually 5:18 p.m. But the clock is in UTC time. Richard Berger, there's some kind of fire station on 61881 shortwave upper sideband. Yeah, I don't know if it's the same. I'm going to check it out, but I believe it was Mixed Radio International was there today. I'm not getting anything, but I know that early this afternoon I did see a posting of Mixed Radio International. PLF radio, is it the NFC frequency? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Dave Todd, yeah, the Radio Shack Pro 2006 is absolutely a great scanner at the time. Bullfrog 89, KD2CXU from Albany, New York. First week of the semester is down. 15 more to go. Hang on there. Hang in there. So, cool, Brent. It's pretty much how I try to do the best, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of the noise and stuff that you got nothing you can do with it, you know. John Pigney, ham radio equipment manufacturer, Flex Radio, in partnership with Raytheon, has gotten $36 million contract to compete for the next generation of HF airborne radios for the U.S. Air Force. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Some new equipment stuff. So, yeah, Paul, you can open the door. You can open the door. He's so funny. He's watching, doing nothing. You can open the door. Come on. So maybe it's time to fill it up. I don't know. Timothy Kearns, nice to have you here. So are the bands open today? Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of stuff. I'm looking at 40 meters. Let's check 40 meters. Maybe not up to par to what I'm used to sometimes, but let's check it out here. China Radio, 7285 from Albania.
Crank it up a notch. The NFL period has got it since for years. It would be a lot. That's how it works.
So that's on the SDR with the loop. This is on the sloper with the Yesu. It's a little better on the with the loop. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX. Yes, you need all the help you can. I use ferrite beads, thick coax like LMR 400, and location. I can basically point my loop antenna away from a nearby transformer for best results. Absolutely, you got to do the best you can, honestly. Yep. Hey, Matt. Tony Turtle, nice to have you here. Timothy Kearns is NN6A. There's some activity. I see some stuff on a lot on the 40 meter bands here. And there's something I looked at. There's DRM from All India Radio on 7550. Let's try 9445 for All India Radio, just out of curiosity. Oh, look at that, guys. All India Radio English, 9445, really good. 9445, All India Radio.
A special thanks to commemorate Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary was released by the Prime Minister as part of efforts to boost cultural cooperation and innovative activities of yoga was inaugurated. Later in the evening, Russian President
All India Radio on 9445. Hey guys, I'm going to leave you with All India Radio for 2 minutes. I'm going to go see Paul the Cat wants food, and I'm going to go fill up. Back in 2 minutes.
The Foreign Secretary said both India and Russia want to international cooperation in defense and nuclear cooperation to stimulate conflict conflict. The Foreign Secretary said India's articles will be of importance to the deepening of the government wants to focus on having a business engagement with Russia and other Far Eastern countries. More from a correspondent. The 36-hour-long visit of the Prime Minister expected to break new ground in food and industry cooperation. between both the countries in the Far East region. The meeting between Modi and Xi, which will be third with facility to extend bilateral cooperation to new areas, including oil and gas, mining, farming, India may announce investment in new iron mines in Russia and an import of energy from Russia. The quantity of oil and gas supplied from the Arctic will also be exported during the bilateral talks. Sufficiently by answering media queries, Mr. Gokhale said India has full support from Russia on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and cross-border terrorism. The Russian Federation has clearly stated its stand on India on this whole issue, and that Article 370 restricts cross-border terrorism, and this has been reiterated by itself it indicates that the Russian side is fully behind the policy. In the continuation of the International Economic Summit, the Prime Minister is expected to hold bilateral talks with the government heads of Japan, Malaysia and Korea. India, this way, India, this way, India, this way. As a prelude to the launching of Chandrayaan 2 on the lunar south pole, its lander Vikram would undergo its first deep maneuver. The National Space Agency, the Indian Space Research Organization, said the operation was held between 8:45 a.m. and 9:45 a.m. One maneuver was held on course to bring the lander closer than ever to surface on the moon. The lander Vikram was successfully separated and stored on orbit and Chandrayaan 2, which in effect is the mother craft. It will save way for its launching near the lunar south pole on Saturday. More from a correspondent. Chandrayaan 2 has traveled more than 3.5 lakh kilometers since its launch on July 22. In just a little over 4 days, India's ambitious second lunar expedition is set to consider it reaching its destination.
They're talking about the Indian lunar orbiter. All India Radio 9445. Pretty interesting signal today. Not bad. And cheers, everybody. Take care, Stephen Wood. Matambali has NMC from Point Reyes, California, 12786. Dave Todd's got 6881 USB in and out here. Music just at the noise level. Matt says I had to take down my horizontal dipole and disconnect the other antennas. Thunderstorm heading right for the QDH. Lee Burkett, yeah, it's going to be cool for the midweek show for sure. Johnny DX, a real star of the show. He was jamais. Yes, Paul the cat is cute, absolutely. What else? John Pigney says I've seen Blaupunkt, Becker, Philips, Nordmend, and Radio Mobile car radios with shortwave on them. For the most part, they were junk, no selectivity. Huh, interesting. Interesting. Eva Shubme says his dog is watching the screen. Wants to eat Paul the cat. Free Saxon, nice to have you on board. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's I would guess it's pretty much like me being part of your living room. Ciro Saito, nice to have you on board from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Shortwave propagation changing as spring comes here. Yeah, same here in the northern hemisphere with winter coming, fall coming soon. It's already showing. Randy, nice to have you here from Riverside, California, KN6BZJ. Timothy Kearns is NN6A in Apple Valley. Man. What else do we have? What else do we have? Sorry, guys. It's fun to watch these. Tony Turtle says I have an older communications handbook, and it has some cool info. It's, you know, I am a big fan. There's a lot of old literature from radio and amateur radio from, you know, decades, and it's just so much fun. I find their music funny sometimes. You know, it's like being, like, you know, if you, I don't know, shaking while you're singing or something. Oh man. Okay. So there's so much interesting stuff, and it's so much fun to watch the old stuff, and sometimes even watch and just wonder of all the things in there. And you look at the prices also of all the equipment and the radios. Pretty crazy. I love old stuff, old books. Really crazy. John Pickney, the engine controls in my old Hummers threw out so much RFI on AM, it's a wonder the FCC didn't bust me for being a pirate running spread spectrum. A pirate truck. Fastload, nice to have you on board, my friend. Carup, nice to have you here. Says back in the 60s, 70s, some German cars like Mercedes comes with shortwave radio, like Blaupunkt. I know that in Europe, a lot of cars actually did have shortwave receivers. Here in North America, it never been something. Gary Stewart, nice to have you here. Au revoir, PLF Radio. See you next time. Of course, next 2 shows. This coming Wednesday, September 11th at 0 UT. Well, UT Thursday, technically, it's 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday night, September 11th. And of course, next week, we have a show on Friday, 20 UT. Friday, September 13th. It'll be Friday the 13th. Anything can happen on Friday the 13th. Maybe pirate receivers and radios and stuff. Rail says, everyone told me about the 8600 was right. The ICOM ICR 8600, amazing receiver. Got it 2 days ago. Loving it. Be better when my medication wears off. Cool. Have fun, man. What a great way to get better. To tune around your brand new radio. It still is fast load because an active loop, that coax, will still have noise induced in it. It is still, especially if the coax from the loop is long, even with an active loop. It just amplifies the signal, that's it. But it's still important, and especially if the loop is very far, the quality of your coax will have an effect. If noise gets induced in that coax, you will have noise induced in that coax, even with an active loop. What else do we have? Matt says, fall is coming. All indoor radio reception in North America is a sign of changing leaves. Yep, there are things like that. You know, I like to talk about sometimes the stations that are typical of a certain time. Like for me, Radio New Zealand is the station for summer, stuff like that. You know, and it's All India Radio is that fall or spring station. Midwinter, like really in the deep of winter, December, for example. All India Radio isn't coming in that great, and when we're in really in the middle of the summer, same thing. But September, October, February, March, around there, maybe April, All India Radio is kind of that time. It's the Shortwave Chair Show. Oh man. Radio Telescope, nice to have you here. Just tuned in, I'm scared. Maybe I was dead. Like people just, looking at it and say, well, maybe he died or something, and there's nobody there. No, that's not beer with ice. It's an ounce and a half of vodka with 7-Up and cranberry juice. Cheers. And it's actually diet 7-Up to reduce the calories. It's actually very good. Cheers where everybody knows your name, man. I remember that show from a long time. Rufus Newt says 94.45, good there in Ontario. Pretty cool. How do you call it here? We will call it the Shortwave show was filmed before a live chat audience. Is that the way that we do it? PageMaster, also to decrease the noise level on coax is to put a toroidal inductor on it. Yep. Oh man. What else do we have? Yeah, I saw that Fastload scored your Pro 2004 for 15 bucks. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Why not? For 15 bucks, I would have taken it too. Hey, Timothy. No, I'm not. I will be soon, though. Levi Nathan, my opinion of the Yaesu FRG 100. I never used one. I have read a lot about it. I remember going back to the times of Passport to World Band Radio and reading about it. From what I have read and from what I've heard, it's a nice radio. It's actually good radio. It doesn't quite get to the top of the really good tabletops, but it's an okay radio, and I believe most people that have one actually like it. But it just, compared to, it wasn't that expensive actually, the FRG 100 back then, and compared to the more expensive tabletops, it doesn't quite reach that level. That's pretty much how I actually grasped what the Yaesu FRG 100 was pretty much all about. Kimberly in California, nice to have you here. Can anyone hear? I think it's XR1 SDC on 20 meters, 14295. 14295. I don't hear anything here, but let's check out here if they report anything. On 14295, I'm looking at the X1 cluster. It's X-Ray Radio 1 Sugar Delta Charlie XR1 SDC from Chile. Absolutely. Anybody hearing that station? 14295. I'm looking at the different who actually contacted the station. There's mostly South Americans. I see him having contacts with a lot of other stations, but none of them in North America. Hey, you guys in Europe, you should try that if you want to try a CW thing. HF50 Moon, HF50MOON from Poland is on 3510.5 CW. 3510.5. You guys in Europe should try that. It's for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. Kind of interesting. There's a special event station there. There's a station from Northern Ireland on 14 to 60. Here I see that there's something right here. Something on 14273 that is that seems to be a Spanish. So interesting. Interesting. Red Hat Shortwave. Nice to have you on board. You can still get aftermath shortwave receivers on eBay once in a while. You have to watch frequency coverage though. And sometimes they only cover small pieces of the bands. Okay, Radioactive. I was going to check it out here. U.S. Coast Guard HF issues. Received this during the show a few minutes ago. U.S. Coast Guard is experiencing a degradation of its ability to acknowledge HF DSC calls. The U.S. Coast Guard remote communications facilities, Cambria, Point Reyes, Astoria, and Honolulu. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Kind of weird. Huh. Thanks for sharing. What else do we have? Yeah, well, most coax on HF isn't too bad. On HF, it's mostly even if it's not amplified on HF, the loss is very low. It's mostly the noise to make sure that it's really very well shielded. I just kicked my camera. I just kicked the camera. But the noise level can be very high if it's not shielded right. What else do we have? David Martin, nice to have you here. 101 Fahrenheit in Dallas, Texas. Way too hot for me. It's it's an after Do Not Evil. Oh man. Before a live chat audience. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you on board. And yeah, the Hurricane Dorian really made major damages and really destroyed the Bahamas, I can tell you that. Major damage in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Crazy. Crazy. Regularly, Jerry, I regularly use my R20, absolutely. What else do we have? Cool. Rob, nice to have you on board, Rob. Pretty cool. Well, I'm going to try 93.95 here. That's pretty good. Here's 93.95. With some Jimi Hendrix music. I have noticed that during Hurricane Dorian, when it was actually getting close to Florida, most of the frequencies of WRMI kind of held up, but there were moments where they were off, like for a couple of minutes, and then back on. So they probably had some problems with the winds and stuff, but they kind of held through. I can tell you that. Matt says, since you got into FT8 on HF, I came across special event stations a lot. Found one from Chile celebrating 130 years of railroads in the country. Cool. Well, I'm thinking, because Dr. Sisop talks about all the jamming all the time, and I did notice in some moments, some of the WRMI frequencies seem to have slight noise in the background. One of them, particularly 5850. Probably is Cuba. I can't imagine anybody else. It's probably Cuba that doesn't like WRMI getting into the island. Hey, Luke. Nice to have you here, Luke Little. Nice to have you on board, my friend. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Pretty cool, Kimberly. Let us know if you succeed. Dorian film Shortwave. Kick the camera. Isn't that vlogger when they die? Yeah, something like that. Vloggers do when they die, yeah. Vloggers do that. YouTubers also. I will be kicking the camera when I die. I want to have a live stream from my coffin. Everybody watching me degrade in my coffin year over, you know, like weeks, over years. Oh, look at that. 20 years later. Nothing left. Yes, Jerry DX, absolutely. We do. John Pickney says, by the way, Yisu used to make private label gear for sale in the US. Anyone remember Henry Radio in Los Angeles? And summer camp in the Federal in Los Angeles, yeah. And the Federal Republic of Germany. You know, there's a lot of things I can tell you. DX responsibly. Okay, Jerry, you're R30. Still love it? My phone is ringing and you guys are probably hearing it. Take care, Mickey. Charles Pickney, WRVA 1140 in Richmond. Used to be jammed by Cuba because WQBA in Miami. Yeah. A lot of jamming from Cuba, can tell you that. As Matt says, WRMI airs a couple of shows produced for Cuba, and the Cuban government doesn't like it. Those are the only times they jam WRMI that I'm aware. Yeah. I hear it from time to time, and not always. Most of the time, it's pretty much in the clear here. Bullfrog 89, give me a couple of years to get out of school. I can help with that, getting my degree in mortuary science. So you'll be able to rig my coffin with live streaming on YouTube. We'll call it Death of Shortwave stream. When Jill dies, Shortwave will die also at the same time. Oh God. JDX, I bet you would get million hits today. Your state would be making millions. Yeah, I'm sure. So when did you get rich? Well, after I died, people around me were rich because there were thousands and thousands of views every minute for my coffin. Sherry loves the R30, great radio. Yeah, it was on, because I'm using the microphone of the laptop, which I find to be pretty good. And the phone is on the same table as the laptop. So when it started vibrating, it actually created, it created that, that vibration there. Real Isle, has anyone heard anything else about Radio Romania possible shutdown near future? It's not going to happen. They so the first news that came out, for those that didn't know, is Radio Romania International. There was a kind of a general manager, I don't know, of the Romanian radio, wanted to shut it down and said, well, you know what, we're gonna shut down that thing. And what happened is that it was overturned, and they said, no, we're not shutting down shortwave. So Radio Romania is all right, Ray. No problem. The deal was rejected, and everything's back to normal. It would have been sad to see Radio Romania go away, honestly. Really would have been sad. Oh, we'll call it the unofficial shortwave channel. Oh, that would be nice. We could put a shortwave radio in the coffin, and you know, usually cemeteries are pretty big, so we'll put like 300 feet of wire across the cemetery, and so you guys will be able to tune the shortwave radio in my coffin. That would be really nice. Oh man. William Helm, 6 feet of coax wrapped in a 4-inch loop for 11-meter noise suppression, roughly for longer bands. Length of cable, F, wavelength of tuned frequency. You can't get more technical than that, actually. Shitty Pyro 90, I call jamming on 9565. Radio Marti is jammed heavily. I get a lot of the jamming, and it's interesting because when Radio Marti actually leaves the air, very often the jammer stays on for hours, and all you hear is that noise on that frequency. Wonder why, eh? John Pickney, a new ham radio contest on Halloween night, silent key night. The exchange is RST and year of expiration of ARRL life membership. Oh God, that is kind of a Tonight, Halloween night, we will have an amateur radio contest with the dead. Let's try to contact the dead. Zombie night, zombie ham radio night, something like that. Hey, you know what? If being a zombie means I can listen to shortwave all the time, I want to be a zombie. Fastload, what about Zoe tonight? And I went there on Wednesday. Yesterday I went out with friends. We I kind of had a little too much to drink last night. Not as much as sometimes, but I woke up this morning a little bit so I'm gonna stay home and be a good little guy tonight. Dave Rhodes, nice to have you on board. I see the realistic version of Sangean ATS 803A is your new avatar. Used to have the UK. Actually, it's been the same for a long time, and it's not mine. It's actually Fastload's one, and I thought that the picture was cute, so I took it. I guess I owe him some kind of royalty for that. I'll pay him a beer at Zoe's, and it's gonna be okay. Oh man. Matam Bali, never quite know what topic is going to come up in here. Absolutely. Well, Friday night can make that work. We are tuning a shortwave radio from Gilles' coffin. That would be a great way to kind of go. You're in your coffin with a radio that works all the time. People around the world tune shortwave through it. It's like, remembering Gilles. Take care, Ray. Always nice to have you here. See you Wednesday. Delta 65, I step away for a minute and now everyone is talking about radios and coffins. Well, we got to think about the future, Radelva 65. Maybe having some kind of radio in a coffin is a good idea. Oh, man. I like that. Eddie Essex says, if you were buried with a radio, you'd make a good ground. Well, you're already there. So you got one of the best grounds available. Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, it is kind of U.S. propaganda, but, that's the thing. Jay Watterson, 69, nice to have you on board, my friend. You missed Paul's appearance a couple of times. John Pickney, a friend of mine, was buried in a coffin that had a drawer for mementos. In the lid, Carl was buried with some of his HO model trims. A portable shortwave receiver would fit. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. We could use that. John Pickney, face it, you're a real community organizer. You organized this one. Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Coffin Radio 6666. Yeah, that would be. We'll be dead. Dead air. Tony Turtle, I want to be buried vertical. Less noisy that way. You know, everybody will know where I'm buried because I will have that W6LVP loop on the tombstone. So people will go in the cemetery. 90% of the people will just say, what is that thing on top of the tombstone? But every radio guy will look and say, he was a shortwave listener or a amateur radio operator, for sure. If that still exists, that would be nice. Hey, by the way, I'm going to just do a little self-promotion. Do you like what I do? Do you think that this is worth it to keep up and continue? Why not think about a donation? PayPal donation, of course, of any amount. You know, it doesn't matter. It really helps, and it is something that keeps me, you know, on the air. I mean, I got an expensive internet bill to pay. I've got all the lighting systems. I bought a new laptop just for that. So I think, you know, in your donations help out in here, because they help out pay for the equipment that I need to continue doing these live shows. And I'm going to be doing 2 live shows now. 2 for the price of 1 is going to be now what's going to happen. So, you know, if you like what I do, don't forget that I'm here all the time. Every Friday at 20 UT, you see Gilles' face. We talk about radio, radios in coffins, zombie radios. And, you know, we are a great community. It's really cool to have everybody around here, everybody following. And, well, that is part of the fun. And, you know, imagine one day getting to your computer or device and at 20 UT on Friday, nothing comes up. That would be sad. So if you do like what I do, you also can become a patron on patreon.com/radio and computers. Set up a little account there and give a little something once a month, and it's automatic. So if you like what I do, think about it, and any amount helps, you know. It really, really helps, and you have no idea over time how all of those donations did help me in maintaining, you know, the equipment around here. I regularly need to change the LED bulbs. Sometimes it's, you know, buy a new lighting system. You know, it could be buying a new camera at some point. I've been looking at new cameras for streaming to try to see what else I could use. And, you know, I have a computer that, of course, is much more powerful. So, you know, all of that is money, and it costs a lot of money to operate this. I do have YouTube monetization. Yes, you're totally right. But it does help out, and it's really, really something that helps me a lot in everyday operations on the channel. And hope you like the content. If you do, please think about a little something. It you know, helps out. Eddie SX, Gilles, if you die, we'll unplug you and plug you back in. Oh, and fingers crossed. Who knows? Might start up again, but I might start up again as a zombie then again. That could be the thing. I'll be back in as a zombie shortwave YouTuber. Oh, really, John Pickney? You've seen a few Morse keys on a few tombstones? Kind of nice. That would be kind of interesting to, you know, when you go to a cemetery. I've never seen anything related to, you know. John Pinkney says, 120 viewers, only 57 likes. What the hell is happening? Oh, I like that one. Vanity call sign D3AD for dead. It looks like dead, or G0NE, gone. Oh, that is nice. That is nice. Max Headstrong, nice to have you here. I've seen a gravestone where they were tapping on the street key. Hey Jeff, KD5QDO, nice to have you here, my friend. Pretty cool. Max Headstrong wants to be buried with his FRG7. The one of the interesting aspects of I would, because I mean, nobody likes to talk about when we go away, what's going to happen. But one of the things that I think we do need to think a lot is what happens to your equipment when you're gone. And I see so many stories of people that go away, pass away, and nobody knows what to do with the radios and the stuff. And you know what? You'd be surprised the amount of radios that were actually perfectly good that probably are in landfills everywhere because people just threw them in the garbage when somebody passed away. And I think part of what we have needs to be, what do you want? If I go tomorrow, I would be sad to see that the radios I got are all going in the garbage or something, because there's you didn't think about it, and I'm sure they could have a great life, a great life somewhere else, because of somebody will use them, and I'm sure there's some ways of thinking of that, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that ended up in the dump really just because nobody really knew what to do with them, and you say, well, they're going to sell it, or they're going to sell it, or they're going to, no, they don't want to, because it's already so hard that they don't want to take the time to do it. They just want to move on, and that's something that sometimes you got to think about your equipment. David Martin. Trivia. I am a Rush song with a Morse code inspired intro for the Toronto Airport identifier. And I believe that song is called YYZ. I do believe it's called YYZ. It's an instrumental thing, eh? I'm not a big fan of Rush, but I do believe that is. Redolver 65, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to wait. Was that a pirate on 6950? That would be nice. Oh well, some people just like that other button. Yeah, YYZ is the roughest newt. Yep. I remember that. John Pickney, if I ever get married again, I want the pastor saying, bereaved friends and relatives, we are gathered on this unfortunate occasion too. Oh man. Oh God. An operator in Colorado, KF0UR. Oh man. And Matt says the ARRL has some program you can sign up so they can help take care of your equipment after your silent key. That is a good. That's a good idea. I remember I remember seeing also there was this QSL. I don't know if they still exist. Anybody knows if they still exist? There was a QSL. Oh man, what was the name of the site or organization? It was a QSL organization that would gather the QSL collections of people that passed away in order to preserve the QSL cards. Because that's also something that you're like, you know, you move away. People are going to look at these things and say, oh, look at that, cute postcards. Okay, time to put in let's put it in the recycle bin, you know. Okay, Fastload, we'll do a deal if you want. Live right now. I will get your radios when you die, if you do die first. In exchange, you'll get mine if I do die first. How about that? Oh, that's nice. The problem is it's got, you know, like John Pickney says, a few hand clubs to help survivors with disposing of gear. The problem is it's got to be zero problem, because for the most part, what happens is for the most part what happens is that the family doesn't want to deal with that, you know. So it's got to be something that's automatic. Fastload, my lightning strike detector is going berserk now. Uh-huh. Oh, really? Anything, thunderstorms coming our way? Jerry Riggs, just put in your will to pass your radios to me. Same here, Max Headstrong. I want the radios to be somewhere they're going to be used. Hey, Patrick Manny. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. That I need to do something with that. The Raspberry Pi and SDR Play stuff, Bobby. Absolutely. With free shipping. Oh, man. Brent says, I found a perfectly good Kenwood TS120S, VFO120, and DC power supply at a landfill electronics recycling. I saved it from oblivion. There's so much of that must be going away. John Pickney, serious suggestions, perhaps a show about safety in our hobby. That is a great idea. We often don't talk about safety of all sorts. And you know what? That could be a nice Wednesday show topic. Staying safe, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, both for amateur radio operators. You know, 2 or 3 weeks ago on the International Radio Report, we talked about two hams that died because the tower that they were actually dismantling collapsed. And so, you know, that's one aspect. And there's a lot of things, you know, we deal with radios, with, you know, antennas. Sometimes we might take chances that we shouldn't to put antennas up. There's electricity all around us. We use electronic devices. Okay, Fastload, cool. Whichever of our two goes first gives his radios to the other. Perfect. Deal. At least we know that they'll be in a good home. And that is, you know, for me that's important. Like we were talking. It's important. If I pass away knowing that the radios will have a good place. Cool. Cool. Wonderland Magales, nice to have you here from Brazil. Joe Sombranuas, nice to have you on board. Also from Brazil. Todd Schmidt, nice to have you here, my friend. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, I think you talked about it. Is it possible, Brent, you talked about it in at the CIDX barbecue? Yeah, unfortunately, 220 megahertz never been a very big band for really big band for ham. There's not a lot of stuff happening there. We got one repeater on 220 here in Montreal. I rarely hear people. Brian Penny, UNID Pirates on 6900 upper sideband. Let's check that out. 6900. I do hear something. I do hear something, but not a lot. And last week was crazy. Last week, the amount of pirates on Friday evening, at one point I could hear 5 different pirates from 6900 to 7,000, like 10 kilohertz apart, all quite strong. It was crazy. Crazy. Tony Turtle says, my neighbor is a ham and 100 years old this year. He used to tell me he was going to throw gear in the trash if I did not come and get it. Oh, you got to go get that. I hear it. I hear the music. There's definitely a pirate on 6900 upper sideband. Let's check it out here, out of curiosity. 6900 mode upper sideband. Comparing the sloper at the same time. Nothing here on the sloper, but I do hear it on the SDR and loop. It's actually reaching about S6 to S7 levels. So yeah, pirate on 6900 upper sideband. Yeah, Bullfrog 89, absolutely. Doing a pre-planning, absolutely. Dr. Sysop, signal on 17540. Let me just check if there's something on 17540. I remember there's something there. At this time, nothing is listed here at this time. Does it have, is it a signal with voice in it or something? Dr. Sysop? Wolfgang 9 says, if you're concerned with what happened to radios, yeah, we need to take the time to think about it. But now I got to deal with fast loads, so I guess it's all written in the stars because, you know, if somebody complains and says, no, they're not yours, Fastload's going to just come back and say, look, here's the video on YouTube to prove that he did say he's going to give to me the radios if he passes away before me. And I give him my radios if I pass away before him. So, you know. Yeah, Brent, I remember the story. You see, I listened. Because I remember the story. Todd Schmidt says, well, sure, the verdict is in. The MLA 30 is awesome. Well, that's, the more I read about it, the more I see people being very happy. And I mean, it's inexpensive compared to my W6 LVP loop. You know, this is going to, if that is, you know, it's so inexpensive, I should buy one. I should actually buy one and test it compared to the W6LVP. Then everybody's going to be bad at me because they're going to say, well, you know, that cheaper loop is as good as the other one. I need to test it. I need to test both side by side. Side by side. That would be nice. But the more I hear about it, the more it seems to be a great antenna. Nice, that's wrong. Someday there will be a movie about the last shortwave listener. This was the life of Gilles, the guy that did shortwave and took it to the max by doing YouTube live shows and bringing old technologies to a new form of technology. Oh man. Cherry DX has 6900 at S7. Max Headstrong, want to be cremated on top of all of my alimony payment receipts. That'll, you know. Want to be cremated on top of all the government paper that came through over the years with your income tax. That is going to be a hell of a fire. Oh man. Todd Schmidt, yeah, the number station with John Cusack. It's an okay movie. It's kind of nice. It's an okay movie. And for anybody that, you know, listens to shortwave, it's like a kind of, you know, has that little something. Terry Cook, 6900 Pirate, right at noise level. Dr. Sisop says, dead now, S3. It's funny you use the dead thing with our topic today. I never thought we would be in the topic of, well, what I do when I die with the radios. Yeah, there's a lot of witnesses now. YouTube is not a legal document. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would be interested to see a case where, well, that guy told me in a YouTube video that we would do that. What the judge would say. Kind of interesting. Shady Pyro 90, 6900 kilohertz USB. I'm going to check HF Underground. Maybe HF Underground has some news about it. So, Shortwave Pirates on HF Underground. I5 radio. 6900 is called I5 radio. That's the pirate name on that frequency. I5 radio. Really has deep fades. Fades in and out quite a lot. I5 radio. Dr. Sisop, wow, you're getting WWV on 25 megahertz. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, William Helms. Yeah, I do need to get some paperwork. Gilles and Shortwave, the movie. On day one, Gilles created the radio. And then he thought it was good. So he decided to create shortwave in the ionosphere. And he thought that was good. And then thousands of stations were around the world. Really? That's too much alcohol here. Rated D or DX? Dr. Sisop says 6900 is not going down there in Florida. David Green, not suitable for all audiences. May include shots with Paul the Cat and casual consumption of alcohol. Radio Havana, Cuba does not endorse all the views expressed in this show. And there may be one or two F words in there somewhere when I had way too much beers. Oh man. Oh man, Radio Havana, Cuba's audio is always bad. 11760 was like, had no audio earlier. Todd Schmidt, I have a video up on the first band. I'll post if you don't. Oh no, it's perfect. Post it, Todd. Show the world. Show the world. We want to see it. Absolutely, share it. I have no problem with people sharing stuff with that related to shortwave. Honestly, I'm very happy to do so. So please do share it. Absolutely. Access Wrong says, so cool to get my weekly radio fix here. Makes me not feel so weird. You're not weird. We're all weird together, so it's normal. We're all weird. It's normal. Can you post it, Todd? Maybe you can't. How about we turn you into a moderator, Todd? There you go. You'll be able to post the link to the show. What else can we do here? XNADX here says, one time I tuned 12,000, it sounded like it was overmodulated. That happens often also. Either undermodulated, overmodulated. It's always super complicated. Always super complicated. And of course you're watching the Shortwave show. Yeah, you're watching the Shortwave show. That show where anything can happen. And everything can happen. Even talk about dead radios and dead persons. The only chat room where there are more moderators than users. Oh man. Tony Turtle, my 100-year neighbor told me he needed some coax, so I bought him a 120-foot chunk of Belgian coax and hung it on his door for helping me. Cool. Next day it was 20 foot high in a tree hanging an antenna. Well, you know. Todd says I feel knighted. And now with the power invested in me, you are a moderator. Hey Kevin Wood. Yeah, you guys are going to be hit by that hurricane. Hey, how about it, Kevin? Kevin Wood is now officially moderator. You have earned my trust. I think it's not bad at all. So, nice to have you on board. 114 watching, 69 viewing, something. You know, John, one of the things that is like, you know, you gotta take the numbers from YouTube in a very specific way. I remember one day looking at one of my YouTube videos, and it was saying that I had 76 likes and 44 views. And I'm like, how can you like a video 76 times but have only 44 views on it? Something ain't right. And YouTube is always messed up like that. All the time. The statistics and the numbers are always messed up. Yeah, at some point it's tiresome because they want us to watch these stats because they're the ones that we have. And you're like, yeah, why is it that Social Blade gives me 3 times more views on something than YouTube itself? And Social Blade can tap pretty much on all the stats. And you're like, huh, this is weird. Yes, Lee Burkett, it's nice to see that Radio Romania is going to continue And it's a, I mean, it's a nice shortwave broadcaster, honestly. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, Dr. Sisop, it's okay. You've also earned my trust. You've been here for a while. Very, very nice. Very nice. Hey, Juan Amigo from Barcelona. Nice to have you on board, mi amigo. Sisop, yeah. I remember going into these BBSs at the time. Let you down, Sensei. Oh, man. It's just crazy. Yeah, I5 radio, Brian Penny. And let's do a few things here. Brian Penny, I'm adding you as moderator. We've met in person. That is easy to there's nothing better than meeting in person to know even more how a person is great. And while I'm here, I'm trying to find Brent. Oh, you're already a moderator? Okay, cool. So Brian Penny is now moderator. Oh man. Playing my favorite games, just putting that disk in the drive and just doing load star dot, comma 8, comma 1. And starting a game. Oh man. Crazy. They are all confused, Bullfrog89, because everybody looks at the chat room and they're all like, okay, this is weird. Why is there a lot of people with wrenches all around? But then again, do you see any trolling? They disappear. Like my friend Jean-Marc that watches the stream from time to time was actually saying that what he finds funny is he follows the chat, and when there's a troll, he says, I never see anything happen. They just take it down so fast. You never even see that a troll is there. It's just crazy. Don't worry, Todd. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that kind of person. Okay, this is fine. I just had a confirmation. I'm actually arranging a Saturday meetup with friends, and was waiting for confirmation. So the ninja, we're like ninjas to the trolls. Don't worry, Todd. I will not change my mind when I give moderator status, unless you are unless you become an enemy of some sort. I do not change my mind. Oh man. Just going to one last time talk about PayPal donations. If you like what I do, please think about a PayPal donation. PayPal.me/shortwave, or if you're on PayPal, of course, you can send any donations to the Yahoo email. Once again, I want to stress out that any amount helps, and it's always great to get donations. If you feel like you feel welcome, and it's kind of nice to have all of you out there helping out. Dr. Sisop, you put a @ sign in front of the I believe you put an @ sign in front of the name of the person, and it works, if I'm not mistaken. WF7I Ombru, nice to have you on board. Good evening. Really enjoyed the HCJB alert the other day. Fell asleep to the pan flutes. Great memories, 80s, 90s. You know that HCJB, a lot of people have been asking me, because a lot of people said, oh, they're reactivated. They're not reactivated. The HCJB, when they actually left Shortwave as a major broadcaster, kept a couple of frequencies, and one that is the last frequency that does come from Ecuador is 6050. And it's usually there in the evening. Like, I'm just going to check here. They must have, well, the pirate station is getting stronger. $6900 upper sideband. High 5 radio pirate. 6900 upper sideband. So if we look at the schedule, 6050 from HCJB is 6050 from 0 all the way to 0400, and then they have some broadcasts at 21, 22, 30 UTC. It depends on the days. They're not always there, but HCJB, I would say from 0 to 04 most days. They're often in Spanish, in Quechua, which is a local language there in Ecuador. So you can check that out. And sometimes you'll, I like it when they actually go into some of their, sometimes they have music programmings, and man, that brings you right back to HCJB days when you were listening in to HCJB with its very distinctive Ecuadorian music on the bands. So 6050 is the last frequency that is from Ecuador. They have a few broadcasts during the day with relays like in Europe, but the only frequency left for Ecuador is 6050. Julius King Arthur. Or William Helms, you use a column? No, it doesn't work. Puts a color label, but not. Oh, there. But there's. I don't believe there's a private chat possible here. There's no possibility of private chats here. I don't think so. Dr. Sisab, do a WWV check and try WCBS 880. I won't be able to do WCBS because my loop has a filter that prevents medium wave. But I couldn't do a check of WWV, so let's check out 25 megahertz, 20 megahertz, 15 megahertz, 10 megahertz. Wow, no frequencies of WWV are coming in. I am not getting any WWV frequencies today, at all, at this time. Yeah, depending on the frequency I'm tuned to. Like on 25, on the upper part, I got a lot of these harmonics above 20, like above 23, 24 megahertz. Below it, there's below 25, there's not a lot. WF79 Ombrew 6050 HCJB was loud here. Was like 10 over S9. Fantastic music. I didn't know they were on the air at a power level to be heard like that. But they're actually quite weak. They're actually quite weak. The power level of HCJB on 6050 is very low. So John Pickney says HCJB on 6050 supposedly running 1 kilowatt. Original HCJB transmitter site at PFO went the same way as the old. They needed to, when they did, they decided to, because that probably caused a big chunk of HCJB going off shortwave. Is that, for those that don't know, the PFO transmitter site, which was pretty big and very high up in altitude, what happened is that they decided that the Quito airport would be expanded, and by the way, it's never did. It never expanded finally. but they wanted to have the airport bigger. And to do that, because the planes would be passing by dangerously close to the antenna towers at the PFO site, they required ACJB to move the antennas somewhere else. Now, at first, they wanted to move the site. They had decided, well, we're going to move the transmitters and the antennas. But as time went by, because you know these things take years, they started talking about moving the PFO site in the 80s. And of course, with you know everything that is government, it's very long before things happen. And it went into the 90s where ACJB was still there. And when they started thinking that they had to move and everything, it was early 2000, and I guess they thought about it and said, well, you know what, shortwave isn't maybe isn't something we should continue because it's really expensive. And basically they moved on to decided to just drop shortwave as a whole rather than continue. I think I just heard Hi-Fi Radio, I5 Radio idea on 6900 upper sideband, Hi-Fi Radio. Chris Alpha Tango, nice to have you here. So what did you miss, Kevin Wood? You are now a moderator and pirate on 6900 upper sideband. Chris Alpha Tango, Hurricane Watch on 14268. So if you guys want to check that out, and of course in the nighttime they usually move to 7268 lower sideband. And yes, Kevin, in Nova Scotia, you guys are going to be hit with Category 1. Category 1 storm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fast load says 6900 is not bad. Yeah, not bad here too. It's getting better actually. It was a little weaker about half an hour ago. With some rock music there. So we're going to check that out here. hnw.net.org. hnw.org. Hurricane Watch Net is Hurricane Watch Net. So hwn.org. And it says it's not active at this time, so apparently it's not there. So if you're hearing chatter on 14325 or 7268, you are not hearing the Hurricane WatchNet as they are not active right now. So maybe you're hearing just some chit chat. They might be talking about hurricanes. What else do we have? Terry Cook, has anyone heard any Red Cross or other relief communications out of tragedy in Bahamas? I know that the destruction is pretty bad over there. Take care, Brent. Remember, guys, next shows, 2 shows next week, will be on Wednesday, September 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0100 UT, Thursday. And we will, of course, have our Friday show at our Friday show that is going to be at 20 UTC on Friday, as usual, Friday the 13th. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, Chris Alpha Tango. It's that unfortunate day in history. That unfortunate day in history. So, Todd Schmidt says macabre music on that part station. So hey guys, I'm gonna say goodbye for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We've been on for 2 hours and 40 minutes pretty much. Hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, 2 shows next week. We're starting that new era of 2 shows a week. Don't forget, if you want to donate a little something, it's always welcome. As for the rest, take care everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's show. We of course are going to start on Wednesday, the first show. So Wednesday shows, I'm just going to tell you, Wednesday shows are always going to be about a specific subject, and on Wednesday we will be talking about of course the basics of shortwave. What is shortwave, and why are we such fans? If you have any stories to share during the week before Wednesday, officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. You can send in your stories of how you started. We'll be reading them on the air. Of course, we'll be asking in the chat room. We'll probably have all of that. So hope everybody enjoys the show on Wednesday. And it's going to be interesting to see a different time slot, different day of the week, what's going to happen there. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Stay safe. You guys in Nova Scotia, stay safe. Going to be hit by that hurricane. And, of course, up and down the east coast of the United States. Bad weather there. Stay safe, everyone. Love you all, and see ya next week for the live shortwave show. Bye-bye, everyone.